You guys, you're watching APS Amplifier. Today we're going to be opening the Fire King structure deck. Just released this week. It's actually the final Yu-Gi-Oh product of 2023, and it's actually a pretty exciting and good product. So flipping over to the back just real quick. Return to Fire King Island. Extreme heat ahead. Intensify your deck's firepower with brand new monster spell and trap cards that unleash the full destructive power of Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Contains 48 cards in a double-sided deluxe game mat, fully compatible with all the cards you already own. And you guys can see the list of cards there, but of course we're going to go through them. Oh, and by the way, if you guys want to see what a triple Fire King structure deck might look like, we actually are doing a duel video over on the main channel. You should be able to see it within like a day or so of this video being released. So be on the lookout for that over on Team APS. Be sure you subscribe there. Heck, be sure you subscribe here. Subscribe everywhere, you know? Team APS is awesome. Okay, so, yeah, it's another structure deck. This year's structures have all been pretty good in my opinion. Oh yeah, I forgot we have these new smaller boxes. It's a little bit tougher to get the cards out of them at first, but yeah, all the structure decks this year have been pretty exciting. Traptrix was a very good like budget 3-of structure. Red Dragon was a good anime thing for people who are kind of more into that. And this feels like it's kind of closer to Traptrix, where you could feasibly get like 3 of these and do a pretty darn good thing at your local or regional tournament. In fact, there's been so much fire support coming out recently in Yu-Gi-Oh! Just in general. You know, the Pyro Rhoda, and there's like a fire salvage card that got announced and all that stuff. That new Xyz monster from Age of Overlord, where you really can play like a strong fire deck. And I think it's kind of looking like the best type of the game right now. So let's zoom in a little bit, get nice and up close and personal with these cards. Yeah, here we go. Sacred Fire King Garunix. So this is the monster on the cover, and it's a lot. There's a lot going on here. Very complex art. Wing Beast Monster. If your monster or monsters that was originally fire is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your graveyard or your hand. If it's normal or special summon, you can destroy one fire, beast, beast warrior, or wing beast monster in your hand, deck, or face-up field, except for another copy of himself. And if you do, this card gains attack equal to half the destroyed monster's attack that it had there until the end of this turn. So this is basically your new boss monster, and while this effect might seem a little like whatever, the entire Fire King strategy is basically about monsters that get effects when they are destroyed. They're kind of all based on like phoenixes and stuff, so they rise from the ashes. So basically, this thing is going to be a real nuisance for your opponent because it's going to be able to come back all the time from the hand or the grave. And then each time it does, it's going to trigger another Fire King monster's effect and get pretty strong in the process. Cool. Okay, so we've got that, and then we've also got Fire King High Avatar Kirin. So during the main phase, if this card is in your hand, quick effect, you can destroy one other fire monster in your hand or face-up field, and if you do, special summon this card. Cool, so you can do this during your opponent's turn. If it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard from anywhere, you can special summon one Fire King monster from your hand or graveyard, except for another copy of itself, and then destroy one card on the field. So the card that you destroy on the field could be your own or even one of your opponents. Very cool, another sort of pseudo boss monster for this strategy. Okay, here's a new one. Looks like this is probably a starter card. Fire King Avatar Rongbali. Looks kind of demonic. If a face-up Fire King monster you control is destroyed by card effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. So that already has a lot of synergy. When a spell or trap or effect is activated while this card's on the field, you can negate the activation, and then if you do, destroy one other fire monster in your hand or face-up on the field. Okay, so I thought it was like a starter card, but it's really more so just a spell and trap negation, but that's actually really cool, and it can summon itself, so that's never a bad thing. And then when you negate the cards, you'll destroy more cards, and that will trigger more effects. Because so far we've seen that these guys really like destroying, and they really like being destroyed. Okay, new continuous spell card, Fire King Sanctuary. When this card is activated, you can place one Fire King Island, that's their field spell, from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone. Once per turn, if a card in your field zone would be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy one fire monster in your hand or face up field instead. That's really nice because it means that your opponent like tries to use Harpy's Feather Duster, let's say. You can protect this by just destroying a fire monster, and that's going to get an effect. Once per turn, if your opponent special summons a monster or monsters, you can immediately after this effect resolves, Xyz summon a Fire Xyz monster, using only Fire King monsters you control. Cool. So we're going to see shortly that they do have a new Xyz monster. Okay, shortly has passed. Garnik's Eternity, Hyang of the Fire Kings. Oh man, this art's wild. There's a Pyro monster. There's a lot going on here. I like it. Takes 2 or more level 8 monsters. So if this card's Xyz summoned, you can destroy all other monsters in the field as a field nuke, just unsummon. Cool. You can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 spell or trap on the field and destroy it. And if you do, this card gains 500 to attack. If this card is destroyed while it has material, you can special summon Fire King monsters from your graveyard up to the number of materials this card had. Very cool. So yeah, this is their new like boss monster in an Xyz form. I like it. A lot of good applications for this card. And another new card, Fire King Sky Burn. This is a quick play spell. Target an equal number of Fire King monsters you control and cards your opponent controls. Wow, okay. Destroy them. If a Fire King card you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. Awesome, so it saves them. And yeah, you can only use 1 Fire King Skyburn effect per turn and only once that turn. So you can't like pop everything and then also get another protection later in that turn. I think that's fair. Echelon of the Fire Kings. Special summon 3 fire monsters, 1 beast warrior, 1 winged beast, 1 each from your hand, deck, and graveyard, but their effects are negated. Also destroy them during the end phase. You can banish this card from your graveyard. This turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when you normal or special summon a Fire King monster. Very cool. So this is a big comeback card. You get to summon 3 of them from like hand, deck, and grave, and then also it can give you a little bit of a protection thing. They get destroyed during the end phase, but I mean, that's not even so bad, is it? So you'll probably be using them maybe to Xyz summon or something like that. Okay, next we've got Legendary Fire King Ponix. It's a level 1 monster. People like these level 1 fire monsters. If your monster that was originally fire is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If it's normal or special summoned, you can add a Fire King spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So this is the starter card I was looking for. You can add 1 Fire King spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Anyways, yeah, during the next standby phase after this card was destroyed and sent to the grave, add this card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is a recurring monster. It's literally a mini Phoenix. So you summon it, you search, and then after it gets destroyed, it just gets to keep coming back. Yeah, this is going to be a very annoying thing. It reminds me of Rika Petal in my Rika deck. Okay, so now I think we're at some of the older Fire King monsters. We've got Fire King Avatar Garunix. If a Fire King monster gets destroyed, you can summon it. If it gets destroyed, you can summon a Fire King Avatar monster from your deck. There's a few of those. It's a Fire King Avatar. There's also Fire King Avatar Barong. If a Fire King monster is destroyed by a card effect, you can summon this. And then during the next standby phase, after it was destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can add a Fire King card from your deck to your hand. Except Barong. Fire King Avatar Yaksha, same thing, can summon itself when stuff's destroyed. If it's destroyed, you can destroy a card in your hand or field. So continue a combo by destroying a Fire King card. Fire King Avatar Kirin. Face up Fire King destroyed, you can summon this card. If it's destroyed, you can send a fire monster from your deck to the graveyard. Blaster Dragon Ruler of Inferno is always so fun to see these Dragon Ruler monsters back in the modern age. We're seeing slowly that they are coming off the ban list, and I think it's a good thing. And they look cool, and they really aren't all that strong in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! So, yeah, you even get one in this deck, Blaster. You can pitch this in a fire monster to destroy things, or you can banish fire and dragon monsters to special summon it. It's a good time, honestly. But it does return to your hand at the end of the next turn. Burner Dragon Ruler of Spark is a way to get it out a little faster. Coach Captain Bearman and Coach Soldier Wolfbark. I actually remember when these cards first came out. Yeah, it's supposed to make making rank 4 and rank 8 Xyz much easier. This was oftentimes run with not Fire Kings, but Fire Fists. Yeah, that's what it was. True King Agnimizid the Vanisher. I actually played a True King deck. You can summon this by destroying 2 other monsters in your hand or field, including a fire monster. And it actually can banish one of your opponent's monsters from their field or grave if both of the monsters that you destroyed when you summoned it were fire. If it gets destroyed by a card effect, you can add a non-fire worm monster from your graveyard to your hand. So that effect probably won't be used too much in here, but the first one would. Infernal Flame Emperor. Old fire card from the original fire structure deck. We've actually done a structure deck duel with that way back when on the channel, if you guys can believe it. So check that out. Dogoran, the Mad Flame Kaiju. Never bad to have a Kaiju to get rid of some of those troublesome, pesky cards your opponent might have. Boss monsters and such. The Blazing Mars. Bonfire Colossus. If you control a fire monster, you can just special summon it. And if it's special summoned, you can target 2 fire monsters you control and destroy them. I think there's probably better cards to be running here for that purpose, but it's okay. Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys. This used to be run a lot in early Fire King decks. I'm not so sure they would run it today because Spell and Trap destruction is kind of abundant. They already have a few ways of doing it with their new cards, but still really cool. It just gets to come back after it was destroyed by a card effect. Royal Firestorm Guards for shuffling Pyro monsters from your grave back in the deck. There aren't too many Pyro monsters here, though. Most of these cards are going to be from the Beast family. There's some Pyros, though. Spirit of Flames, just a special summon by banishing a fire monster. Fencing Fire Ferret. If it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you get to just destroy all your opponent's cards and deal 500 damage to them. Firebrand Hymnist. When it's normal summoned, you can send cards from the top of your opponent's deck to the grave equal to the number of cards they control. If this card is special summoned, you can send cards from the top of your opponent's deck to the grave equal to the number of cards they control. That's interesting. It's an interesting effect. Alpha the Master Beast. Really cool reprint in here, actually. This is pretty good because most of your monsters are of the Beast family, so you can special summon this card if your opponent's total attack on the field is higher than your total attack on the field. You can target your Beast, Beast Warrior, and Winged Beast monsters, return them to the hand, and then return your opponent's monsters, face-up monsters, back to the hand up to the number of cards that you returned. So this is really good. I actually like this card a lot in just going second strategies, but it's really cool that they included it in here. Droll and Lockbird is another really useful hand trap. I'm surprised that they didn't just stay on theme and use Ash Blossom, but I won't complain too much about a Droll and Lockbird reprint. This card's pretty good, and it, you can just stop your opponent from searching. Onslaught of the Fire Kings. This summons a Fire King monster from your deck, gets destroyed in the end phase. Circle of the Fire Kings. Target a fire monster you control and a fire monster in your grave. Destroy the monster you control. Summon the one from the grave. Probably get an effect in the process. Rekindling. Summon as many fire monsters as possible with 200 defense. Banish them during the end phase of the turn. There are several different monsters in here that have 200 defense. This is one of them. There are a few others. Fire Formation Tinky. This can search things like Barong, any Beast Warrior monster. Dark Hole. So a great way to get rid of your opponent's cards, but actually also maybe even destroy some of your Fire King cards in the process. And trigger a few of their effects as well. Trade in. Discard a level 8 monster. Draw 2 cards. There are things like Garunix in here that you'll want to discard, or even like Sacred Phoenix and Nephthys if you chose to run it. Herald of the Abyss. This is actually a pretty sneaky reprint to include in here, but you pay 1,500 life points, declare a monster type and attribute, and your opponent has to send a monster with that type or attribute from their field to the graveyard. And they can't use that activated monster's effects for the rest of the turn. So this is actually a really good way to get rid of some troublesome boss monsters because it forces your opponent to send, so it's not actually the monster being affected by a spell, it's just the opponent having to send the card. Complicated Yu-Gi-Oh! Ruling thing. Flamvel counter to negate spells and traps by just banishing a fire monster with 200 defense. Spiritual Fire Art Kurenai, tribute a fire monster, deals some damage. Chain Destruction. When a monster gets summoned, you can destroy all cards with that name in the controller's hand and main deck. You can use this on your own Fire King monsters, or technically on your opponent's cards if you think it's useful. Torrential Tribute for destroying everything, and you guys know what destroying means. Solemn Judgment's a neat reprint in here, as well as a common copy of Infinite Impermanence. I really like this. You can never have too many copies of things like Infinite Impermanence. Power Sink Stone. Get Spellstone counters. Interesting. Oh, and they give us a little bit more extra deck stuff in here. So we get Coach King Giant Trainer. Lets you detach, draw, reveal, and deal damage to your opponent. Diamond Direwolf, probably the more useful one. It's a rank 4 that can destroy a card on the field alongside a Winged Beast, Beast, or Beast Warrior. Trigger a few of those Fire King cards. Hita the Fire Charmer Ablaze. There's Fire King High Avatar Garunix, the original. During the next 10 phase after it was destroyed by a card effect, it gets special summoned and then destroys all other monsters in the field. Cool, and then when it gets destroyed, you can summon a Fire King monster from your deck. This doesn't have a hard once per turn because it's an older card, so you can actually really exploit this quite a bit in your combos, I would think. Fire King Avatar Arvata. This is one of the newer ones that came out just a few years ago. It negates monster effects by destroying another fire monster in your hand or field. And of course, when it goes, it can summon one from the graveyard. So this is a really good card. You'll definitely want to run 3 of this. And finally, the field spell Fire King Island. If it's sent to the graveyard or banished, it destroys all monsters you control. During your main phase, you can destroy a monster in your hand or field and add a Fire King from deck to hand, so it's like a Rhoda every turn. And if you don't control any monsters, you can special summon one Fire Wing Beast monster from your hand. Awesome, and that's your look at the Fire King structure deck. I think this one's really cool. There's a lot of new fire cards that this deck can take advantage of. They're external ones that you'll have to get a few copies of on your own outside of the deck. But honestly, 3 copies of the structure deck could probably do something pretty nice on its own too. If you want to see it in action, like I said, we're going to be doing a 3x Fire King structure duel against the Jack Atlas structure deck. I actually have it right here. So that would be cool. Go watch that over on the main channel, Team APS, and subscribe there, subscribe here. Let me know down in the comments, are you building this deck? What do you think about it? How viable do you think it will be competitively? All right, it's going to be it. See you guys in the next one. Fast turn.